Peppa Pig and Ben and Holly keep sneaking into each other's worlds, and we found the proof. From hidden cameos to background Easter eggs, these two shows are more connected than you'd ever expect. Today we're breaking down every secret crossover, and trust us, some of them are unbelievable. Let's dive in and reveal the proof. This first clue will blow your mind, because Ben and Holly don't just sneak into Peppa Pig, they take over an entire library. In the episode The Library, Peppa and her family head out to borrow books after Daddy Pig finally remembers to return one he's had for 10 years. Once Miss Rabbit finishes telling him off, Peppa and George head to the children's section. And that's where it gets shocking. Right there on the wall is a giant poster of Princess Holly, crown, wings, the whole fairy outfit, decorating the library like she's a celebrity. And when Peppa picks out her own book, it's Holly again, right there on the cover, sitting proudly next to the red monkey books. Finally, when the shot zooms out, there's another poster further along the same wall, this time of Ben himself. They're not tiny Easter eggs, they're full-blown decorations, right in the middle of Peppa's world. And it doesn't stop there. In Once Upon a Time, Peppa and George flip through their storybooks, and inside one of them, clear as day, is Princess Holly drawn right into the pages. And then comes the biggest surprise yet. Another major character from Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom shows up in Peppa's reading material. In the episode World Book Day, Peppa struggles to decide on a costume, flipping through different options. One of the books shows a tiny magic fairy on the cover who looks suspiciously like Nanny Plum herself. Wand, wings, pointy dress, the whole package. So between the giant library posters, the bedtime story cameos, and even Nanny Plum appearing on Peppa's book covers, one thing's clear. Peppa's Reading Corner is basically a tribute to Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom. Our next clue isn't hiding in the background, it's plastered across the wall for everyone to see. In the episode Hospital, Peppa and her classmates head off to visit Pedro Pony after he breaks his leg. The journey there is classic Peppa, Mr. Bull rattling off complicated directions, but eventually they pile into the lift to the children's ward. And right outside that lift is where the crossover hits you. Covering the wall is a huge mural featuring Ben, Holly, Gaston the Ladybird, and even Bobby B. It's not subtle. Instead of the usual flowers or balloons you'd expect in a hospital, the designers went full-on Little Kingdom. Big, bold, and impossible to miss. The next place Ben and Holly pop up is one of the last spots you'd expect, right in the middle of New York City. In the 4-part holiday special, during the episode America, Peppa and her family fly across the Atlantic after winning Super Potato's golden ticket. Once they land, the American version of Miss Rabbit gives them a whistle-stop tour of the city. After a trip up the Empire State Building, she drives them straight into Times Square. And that's where the crossover hits. Among the glowing billboards and flashing screens, one stands out instantly. It's not just a lookalike, it's clearly Ben and Holly. The pair are lit up on a massive electronic billboard, towering above the street like celebrities. It's quick, but unmistakable. Clear proof that the Little Kingdom isn't just part of Peppa's world anymore. Ben and Holly have officially gone international. Another huge clue that Ben and Holly's world has slipped into Peppa's comes straight from Peppa herself. In her old bedroom, there's a famous drawing of a fairy with wings and a crown that looks suspiciously like Princess Holly. But when the family moved into their brand new house in the latest season, that same drawing showed up again, this time pinned proudly next to Peppa's bunk bed. Clearly, it's one of her favorite decorations. And the fairy obsession doesn't stop at her walls. In the new room, you can also spot a toy wand and a crown tucked among her things, exactly the kind of accessories you'd expect to see in the Little Kingdom. But the biggest giveaway comes in Fancy Dress Party. Out of all the costumes Peppa could have chosen to wear to the party, she arrived dressed as a fairy princess. Crown, wand, sparkling dress, the full Holly look. At this point, it feels less like make-believe and more like Peppa is auditioning for a role in Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom. So now we've spotted Ben and Holly sneaking into Peppa Pig a few times, but in the playgroup garden, it's Gaston the Ladybird who takes center stage. Gaston is Ben's loyal pet from the Little Kingdom. He barks like a dog, rolls in mud like Peppa herself, and still manages to look adorable doing it. In the episode, Madame Gazelle takes the class outside to admire their plants, but tucked away in the wild wood, Peppa spots a ladybird with that same shiny red shell and perfect little black spots. He doesn't bark this time, but there's no mistaking it. Gaston has gone solo, just casually wandering past while Peppa argues about whose sunflower is tallest. And Gaston doesn't stop there. In Creepy Crawly Safari, Madame Gazelle hands the children magnifying glasses to look for insects. Butterflies flutter past. A stick insect named Steven gets everyone's attention. And then once again, a very familiar ladybird turns up. Gaston has managed another cameo, but this time it almost feels like he's been booked for the role, stealing the spotlight from poor Steven, who spends half the trip pretending to be a twig. So while Ben and Holly usually sneak in together, Gaston seems to be carving out his own career. 2 separate cameos, and counting. At this rate, he doesn't just belong in the Little Kingdom anymore. He's Peppa Pig's first official insect celebrity. Some cameos are small, but this one makes Gaston look like he's the real boss of the whole Peppa Pig universe. If you stick around after an episode ends, past the final jingle, you'll spot it in the credits, Gaston's Cave Limited, complete with a little ladybird logo. That's right. Out of all the characters in Peppa Pig, it's Gaston the Ladybird who somehow ended up with a whole production company named after him. Forget background cameos, this ladybird went straight to the top and took executive control. Up until now, we've been spotting Ben and Holly's world sneaking into Peppa Pig, but now it's time to flip things the other way. Because there are moments where Peppa and her world have slipped into Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom. And one of the biggest examples happens in the episode The Tooth Fairy. Ben and Holly tag along on a nighttime mission to collect a tooth from a little girl called Lucy. And when they sneak into her bedroom, that's where the magic happens. Look closely at the toys on her floor, because sitting right there is none other than Peppa Pig as a plush toy. Lucy basically owns official Peppa Pig merchandise. To top it off, her wall even has a drawing of a dinosaur on it, which feels a little too much like George's beloved toy to be a coincidence. So what does that mean? Well, the most likely answer is that in Lucy's world, Peppa Pig is a cartoon superstar, big enough to have her own toys, posters, and maybe even Saturday morning reruns. Which means Lucy watches Peppa Pig on TV, while we're watching Lucy on Ben and Holly. It's the ultimate crossover loop. Like Inception, but with cartoons. One thing's for sure, Lucy's Peppa plush is one of the funniest, clearest signs that the two worlds are more connected than we think. We've been tracking all the times Ben and Holly sneaked into Peppa Pig, but this next cameo shows the connection might have been there from the very beginning. In the very first episode of Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom, there's a framed picture on the wall. And it isn't just any picture. It's a house on a hill with yellow walls and a red roof. Exactly like Peppa Pig's house. This isn't just similar, it's Peppa's house. Which raises a huge question. Why is it hanging inside a fairy and elf home? Was this proof that the worlds were always meant to be linked, right from episode 1? The next crossover might be the strangest one yet, because it proves that fame in Peppa's world doesn't stop at muddy puddles. It reaches all the way into the Little Kingdom. In Peppa Pig, Mr. Potato is more than just a vegetable. He's a superstar, with his own TV show, merchandise, and even a blockbuster movie. Kids in Peppa's world absolutely adore him. But in Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom, during the episode Miss Cookie's Nature Trail, we find out his fame goes even further. When a class of human children arrives on a field trip, one boy strolls in with a bright backpack, and right on it is Mr. Potato himself. That means Mr. Potato isn't just a TV star in Peppa's town. He's an international brand, so big he's even cracked the magical world of elves and fairies. So, in the end, it's simple. Peppa Pig and Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom aren't 2 separate shows at all. They keep crossing over, sneaking into each other's worlds again and again. Call it a multiverse, call it an inside joke from the creators. Either way, it's the crossover nobody saw coming, led by a fairy, a pig, and a giant potato. Which crossover did you like the best? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more hidden secrets in your favorite cartoons. Thank you for watching.